He's charging down the runway. Look at that speed for a man that size. Plants it up. Oh, my goodness, he's still rising.
Charging hard down the runway. Plants in. Massive bend here. He's up. Over. Oh, the pole snap.
Powering down the runway. Pole set. Eyes locked on the bar. Let's go. Plants it. Huge bend. He's up. Inverted. Clearing. Over the top. He got it. He got it.
Here he goes, driving down the runway, pole steady in his hands. Come on! Massive bend, and he's up over the bar!
Comes Jensen barreling down the runway. Look at the speed for a man his size.
Pole goes in, huge plan. Oh my! He's still rising. That's
coming down the runway now. Look at the speed he's carrying for a man of his size.
It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
And nothing wrong with starting with an oldie but goodie. I want to welcome everyone. It is Sunday, November 9th, 2025. Welcome to your latest installment of The Sit Down. I am Don Tony. I want to thank you all for joining me. Hope everyone is having a good weekend. I'm preparing for surgery this Friday. Not a big deal. Gotta remove something. So we'll leave it at that for now. But I don't think it'll interfere with next weekend shows. So we'll keep on schedule. If I have any complications, I'm sure I'll have somebody post social media, but I think everything will be fine. Interesting week in the world of professional wrestling. WWE coming off of Saturday night's main event and what transpired on Monday with Logan Paul. We were having some fun talk during the week about Logan Paul. It was interesting because we got on the conversation here last Sunday if Logan Paul could actually work as a babyface. Could it work? And not saying that it can't work, but I think we all realize that Logan Paul is best suited right now as a chicken shit heel. But, I don't think some people realize how many years he's actually been doing this. We just put the history show up yesterday. And, one of the matches that popped up was his match against Roman Reigns, which is still talked about today because of that splash doing a selfie off the top rope through the table. And that was already 3 years ago. 3 years. And talk about years going by. Look, last Sunday I said Jey Uso, he'll be fine. And I still believe that. I still believe that he'll be fine. But you're seeing a very interesting, shift in the popularity. And it's interesting because you think back to 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we were in the midst of COVID. The COVID pandemic was going on. It's already been over 5 years. It's amazing to even think about that. But you ask yourself 5 years ago during the pandemic, we're dealing with Thunderdome, with dealing with no live touring. And we try to remember at that time, what, as far as wrestling, really triggered us the wrong way. I mean, outside of the pandemic, I think the biggest issue that people had at that time was Vince McMahon releasing wrestlers during the pandemic. Oh, you can't do that. We could talk about that another day. Welcome to the world of business and publicly traded companies and billionaires. But I think that was the biggest gripe. I think another issue that we had at that time was a lot of the over-the-top special effects that they were doing. Not everything was live, obviously. And Alexa Bliss, I mean, look, huge fan of hers. She usually is featured on the wall in the back. But you remember some of the over-the-top superpowers when things were falling down from the buildings, and you knew that once live fans came back, a lot of that over-the-top special effects shit would go out the window because you wouldn't be able to do it in front of a live audience. That was really it. I mean, NWA really, really shot themselves in the foot, and I don't think they've ever recovered since. Impact Wrestling relied a little bit too much on AEW at the time. But overall, I don't think there was this huge issue, especially with Jey Uso. Think about it. Go back 5 years ago. I mean, you had that infamous Hell in a Cell with Jey Uso and Roman Reigns, and to me, that was the turning point of Roman Reigns becoming the tribal chief. That was one good thing that came out of the pandemic. I don't know if Roman Reigns succeeds as much as he did without the pandemic. Because remember, he didn't have to deal with the fans chanting, what? He didn't have to deal with the fans jeering him. He could say what he wants. I mean, anybody in the company, you could do whatever you want, and you dictate the audio of the fans because you got a soundboard. You got fans in Thunderdome. You dictated exactly the reactions you wanted to dictate. But I still love that match that they had where you heard all the verbiage, the emotions. And because it was not live, you can edit, you can tweak it, you can master it. And, you think back then, Jey Uso, a lot of people felt, you know what? Yeah, I think we could buy into Jey Uso, take it a little bit to the next level. And we know what has transpired since. I don't need to give you a whole history lesson. But, lately Jey Uso is getting quite a bit of negative reaction. And, people are trying to figure out, what is the Jey Uso problem with the WWE? And this was the thumbnail that I ended up coming up with tonight. And there's a reason why I have 2020. Now, listen, Sunday nights are your show. I sit back, I answer your questions, I share your comments. Anybody sends any super shout outs, you go to the front of the line, we will answer your stuff. I see that a pair came in already. But I definitely want to just open up quickly about Jey Uso, especially at the beginning of the shows. I don't like having to make people wait half hour, an hour and a half to get a big topic. But this has been a pretty interesting chain of events with Jey Uso, because a year ago, he was crying in the audience. You deserve it chance when he won the Intercontinental Championship. Beautiful moment. I loved it. Still remember when he was talking to Jackie Redmond and how emotional he got. I remember the war that Vince Russo had with Rikishi. It really wasn't a war, but Vince Russo thought it was a little ridiculous. And Rikishi, God, that was a time you wish Rikishi did not censor his shows. I still want the uncensored version of what he said that time. But I don't think there was much of a complaint. When he teamed up with Cody Rhodes, I don't think there was any issues. When he was half drunk at the press conference, I think we all laughed at it. When he beat Gunther, I think the way the match ended rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I don't think people really had an issue so much of Jey Uso beating Gunther, was the way that Gunther won. And then you had afterwards Gunther not trying to regain his championship right away. He'd take a few weeks off, fine. But everything about Gunther is gold. 80% of the time he's champion. Now that's down to about 77%. But when he comes back, what do? They put him up against Pat McAfee and Michael Cole. And Michael Cole is so incensed and concerned and worried that these unsafe working conditions, this cannot be, I will not be part of this. All that nonsense. Then Pat McAfee stands up to the evil Austrian, has the match, loses, and literally less than 24 hours later, I have respect. Even though he's a bully, I have respect. And then Gunther back, Pat McAfee, blah, 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 respect. What the fuck is this? And then it's like, okay, this is how you get Jey Uso to hold the championship for a couple of months. Gunther, for some dumb reason, goes after Pat McAfee and Michael Cole. And Jey Uso, he has, does anybody remember any memorable title defenses for the most part with Jey Uso? But, there's something else. He has been labeled recently as being mostly an entrance. And he's angry at people labeling him as that. But before I share with you something that I unearthed from 5 years ago, I want to share with you 2 clips. All right. One has to do with last week. I want you to watch again Jey Uso talking to Alfred and, what he said about, fans that don't like Jey Uso. All right. Don't like him. And as you listen to his comments, basically what he's telling you is come to the arena, feel the vibe. Maybe you'll yeet with me also. And then you realize all he's talking about is the fucking entrance. Remember this from last week?
How do you react to that online hate, if at all? Does it ever get to you?
Oh man, if you just get out the house, right? If you just get out from behind from your iPhone, your iPad, your computer screen, right? And you come out the house, man, and you let the sun hit you on the face a little bit sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Breathe in some fresh air. You know what I'm saying? Come on down to where your arena's at one time if WWE's ever in the building. And if you ain't ever been to a WWE shows, man, this is my invitation. Come through. You know what I'm saying? It might change your whole perspective and your whole opinion about Jey Uso. Because when you step into arena, if you buy a ticket, and step into arena and come to the show, man, you'll feel the energy, man. You'll be eating right there with me, instead of hating, man. Come on, stop.
4 letters, 1 word, 1 word. I know, and guess what? Screw you, punk. Yeah, cause Saturday night, I show you who the best in the world is, who's 4 letters, 1 word, 1 word.
What happened?
I pressed the wrong button. I'm so sorry.
You know why I shared those again? Those were created by fans. Those were created by wrestling fans that are a little bit annoyed of the Jey Uso entrance. And listen, when you're live in the attendance, yeah, it's a great vibe. You're having a good time. There's no question about it. But, his entrances eat up 10 minutes of a show. And then you see the promos. But here's the thing that I want to share also. I want to share another clip very recently. All right, because one thing that we've been doing on the other shows, and you've heard me do my Red Fox impersonation for the longest time about Jey Uso. If you pay attention to Jey Uso a year ago, early this year, what's his promo all the time? He doubted me. You doubted me. Everybody doubted me. Everybody's against me. You've heard, he doubted me. You doubted me. Everybody doubted me. And it always comes in threes. Every time he complains, it's always in threes. Roman Reigns, I don't care what he says. Jimmy, I don't care what he says. The fans, or, the IWC, whatever you want, it's always in threes. But I want you to hear another clip of something that he said very recently. Listen very closely.
The oath is real, man. I faced the consequences. I told him I never run from them. I'm going to face it. And that was it. I knew what I was getting into. But this is it, man. This is the game we play. And it's like a double-edged sword. I'm in that position trying to fight from under. And you got the whole world saying I don't belong there.
you got the whole world talking a whole bunch of crap. Like I'm not the guy supposed to be running with this thing. And now we give the world what they want to see. And now the whole world, oh, why you do that? Why you do that? Man, y'all don't know what the hell y'all want. But I know I got to do what I need to do to provide for my family. And that's the number one. That's been the goal since I came in here. And man, that's this is how it's got to be. Then this is how it's got to be. It's a shark eat shark world that we live in professional wrestling. They know what it is, man. There's no friends. He said it. Only believe half what you hear. You know, man, that saying's for real. And if I'm gonna stick with somebody through this whole journey and through this game to get me through, man, it's got to be my family, even though I do not like it. You know.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. That clip you just heard was 5 years ago. 5 years of the same shit. You don't realize it. You don't think about it because he doesn't complain every single week. But that was 5 years ago. And if you want to reference the show, we got to give credit where credit is due. You remember Kayla Braxton? Kayla Braxton. We like her. Wasn't always that way, but we like her. 5 years ago, she tried to venture in the podcasting world. And, you know, even professionals and those on TV, you know, don't always cut it in the beginning. Very, very raw and very, but she did a podcast called The Braxton Beat. Who remembers The Braxton Beat? She had Jey Uso on. And this is what he was saying. 5 years of that. You don't think about it every day. It doesn't penetrate every day. You don't realize it until you're reminded of it. And I was listening to this clip the other day and I was like, holy shit. And that was during the fucking pandemic. That was the time where he was fighting Roman Reigns and people were giving him props. What is this? The world is against me. The world isn't against you. They weren't against you like that 5 years ago. They were ranked the greatest tag team of this generation. And he's got a major problem because what's happening is you cannot hide from history, you know, and we're realizing, I mean, with all due respect, I'm not trying to bring him up to be a dick, but you see what's going on lately with Dave Meltzer. Dave Meltzer just, you know, back in the day, even The Rock, you know, leave Dave Meltzer alone. It's unfair to always go, look at The Rock. Look at The Rock. I wanted to use The Rock as the thumbnail for tonight so bad, but I was like, nah. Do you remember, for you guys that remember this is a treat. Do you remember when everybody was doing Ric Flair was there? Ric Flair was there. Ric Flair would claim that he was here. Like Hulk Hogan would make stupid claims too, but Ric Flair, what would happen is people would take moments in history, iconic moments in history, almost like Forrest Gump, you know, and they would put Ric Flair, they would Photoshop him into moments. Ric Flair was there because Ric Flair would make some claims that would be disputed. I was revisiting Dr. Dre. Ripping the shit out of Ric Flair because he claimed that he had sex with 10,000 women. That's a story for another day. But The Rock is starting to do that. The Rock is starting to do what Hulk Hogan was doing. And this week, and this is what pisses me off, and this is why we're going to start having a much bigger presence in 2026. If we have to be the police to start putting some of these people in its place, so be it. But The Rock did an interview with GQ fucking magazine. GQ magazine. And The Rock this week makes the claim that he knew that Osama bin Laden was killed before President Barack Obama knew. All right. Now, where does he get? He claims he got it from a friend. Okay. You know, he claims he got it from a friend. I did the research. And what I found was The Rock no respect for the president, The Rock posted a tweet at 10 p.m. on Twitter the night that we found out bin Laden was killed. He tweeted at 10 o'clock at night that he found out something and is proud to be an American, this is that. President Obama did not tweet about it and make the announcement until 11 o'clock. So The Rock did tweet it an hour before President Obama did. But what The Rock doesn't realize, and I'm not trying to start a war with The Rock, but again, Dave Meltzer, The Rock, people are starting to realize, yeah, we could check everything now. You could check everything now to see if somebody is full of shit. And what happened is President Obama was in what you call the Situation Room, and they were monitoring what was going down in Iraq. And no, not Iraq, Afghanistan, right? It was Afghanistan. And one of the helicopters, I think, with our military crashed, and they invaded the building, and that happened sometime around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern time. Pakistan, thank you, Pakistan. Brain fart, everybody, brain fart. Pakistan. So they're monitoring this at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's even pictures. There's some iconic pictures of them in the Situation Room. You look at Hillary Clinton, she's got a look on her face really like scared. And then about an hour later, were told that Osama bin Laden was killed. Obama found out. They waited 6 hours to make the announcement public. But The Rock thinks because Obama posted it on Twitter at 11 o'clock at night that that's when he found out. Obama knew about it 6 hours before The Rock ever posted his tweet. But what happens? GQ magazine lets it go. They just accept it. All the wrestling sites, they just accept it. They just reposted his news without fact-checking him. So you look at this Jey Uso stuff, and what's happening now is people are starting to fact-check everything. And I love it. I love that everything is being fact-checked. I'm not one into politics like I used to, but I heard today, like, some media in the United Kingdom, major, like, news people had to step down because they altered Trump's speech from January 6th to make it seem like we're going to go to the Capitol, we're going to fight. And they literally took 2 clips that were an hour apart and spliced it together. Why it took 5-6 years for us to find out about that, I have no idea. But the point is, now you're starting to see everybody fact check everything. And it's a beautiful thing. But for Jey Uso, people are starting to look back and say, wait, is this how you're trying to get yourself over? The victim? To make yourself sound like the victim? Oos, I give you what you wanted. What do you want? Everybody's against me. He doubted me. You doubted me. Everybody doubted me. I don't think I could do it. People are starting to get tired of it. People are getting tired. And I mentioned Triple H fatigue the other day. One of our great channel members on YouTube wrote it. I don't remember who it was. But that is also true. We're getting Triple H fatigue, and we're getting fatigue of the same old shit. And people are starting to realize, we pointed out a little bit, you look at Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio. Because because Finn Balor is so good at what he does, and because Dominic is so good at what he does, we don't have much issue of it. But these two have been having issues for over 2 fucking years. Over 2 years ago, we thought that there was going to be one of them getting kicked out of the judges. This is over 2 years. You look at other shit going on. You see Sami Zayn. You look at the bloodline, the old bloodline, the new bloodline. It's like years have gone by. And you say to yourself, wow, so much of what we thought was different is the same. It's the same shit. And then you hear Cody Rhodes doing an interview the other day. I think we've just scratched the surface of what the final boss could do. Do we realize it's going to be almost 2 fucking years with the final boss doing all this stuff? We just scratched the surface? Why do we need 5 years of this when it could be done in 1 or 1.5? Even the Roman Reigns stuff. We understand Roman Reigns is a part-time player now. We understand Roman Reigns, you got to be a little bit more careful because of his history with the leukemia, and he's getting older, and, various issues. But, I still remember right before WrestleMania, remember that video when he's on the treadmill? I'm not a part-time player. You could call me a part-time player, but I'm not a part-time. And he does Mania and he leaves. And then he comes back in time to go to overseas to get tsunami'd on a stretcher board. And what happens? I left to go do the Street Racer or Mortal Kombat or whatever the fuck it was. And then, I don't want to see you. He talks to the Usos. I don't want to see you guys till Christmas. Christmas? I mean, you look at what's going on. This is years and years and years of all this stuff. Look at AJ Lee. Now, I think AJ Lee is going to be back much, much, much sooner than people realize. But we're now 7-8 weeks. It's like 7 weeks since she did WrestlePalooza. And you got people every single week chanting AJ Lee. Oh, no, it ain't happening. I mean, people are starting to get really, really tired of it. And I tell you, I'm not one that ever said Triple H is in jeopardy of losing his job. Listen, even people that I support have made that claim numerous times the last couple of years. But I got news for you. Then we'll move on. I hope all of you got an opportunity to listen to a little bit of the TKO earnings call that took place last week for the third quarter, because there is a segment with Mark Shapiro and Nick Khan. And I know the big one that everybody focused on, as I was, how they're bullish with the ticket prices and everything else. We already confronted the Saudi Arabia comment, which was asinine on Nick Khan's part. He gets away with it. But there was something else that was said that nobody paid attention to. And basically, Mark Shapiro is saying that we need to start moving away from all the Vince McMahon pay-per-view concepts. Not get rid of them, but he's like, we need to start our own. We need to create a new. And Mark Shapiro brings up WrestlePalooza, the huge success about WrestlePalooza. This could be the next big yearly thing, WrestlePalooza. Now, I don't have an issue with the name because that's what ECW used in the 90s. I think people were a little bit underwhelmed with what they gave us on the card, and Triple H saying big surprises. The only surprise I think we got was that Stephanie McMahon was announced for the Hall of Fame and Undertaker came out. That's really all I thought it was. But if you go back to this earnings call, it's pretty fascinating because Mark Shapiro is talking about how they need to come up with fresh, new concepts, pay-per-view ideas, premium live events, and get away from the Vince McMahon. Not that they're trying to erase Vince McMahon's history, but, we're going into the mid-2020s. Let's start reinventing. Let's start doing this. Let's start doing that. And Mark Shapiro says, Nick, get on it. Nick, get on it. Why is that a big deal? You do remember when The Rock came back for Elimination Chamber, and that's when John Cena turned heel. Rock was needed for the Elimination Chamber, but not WrestleMania. That was not Triple H's idea. That was not The Rock's idea. That was Ari Emanuel who said to The Rock, we need you to come back for Elimination Chamber to boost up the show a little bit. You're starting to see a pattern where Triple H, with all due respect, it's like, yes, boss, okay, do whatever you say, blah, 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 blah. You don't ever hear them say, Paul, let's get on this. Let's talk to Paul. Let's start working on this. No, it's Nick and Mark and Ari. And Triple H he's got to just go along with it. And I think that's something that we need to start paying more attention of, because even last week when Triple H said, it's a new landscape in the WWE, new landscape. What, Logan Paul joined the Vision? We talked about that 6 weeks ago. That's not revolutionary. The motherfucker's not a full-time player. He's going to come out 3 weeks in a row wearing suits, wearing, whatever he wears, and going to stand there and blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, the main event's still going to be Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, maybe Logan Paul, a mixture of that. And then you get a little LA Knight, and you get a little CM Punk, and little Jey Uso. Jimmy Uso, they feuded, they were together, they feuded again, they were together. And then you see Drew McIntyre. We saw this a mile away. Drew, you're suspended. Yeah, basically, we don't fucking have any creative ideas for you right now. So you just assault an official, we'll suspend you, and that's our way of getting you off TV for a little while. You see a little bit extra buzz with AAA. Look at Julia. We've been talking about Julia's run for the last couple of months. She had two title defenses. And she loses to Chelsea Green. We're not complaining about Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green is awesome. But you see, just a lot of this just blah. And people are starting to get tired of it. And some people are getting a little bit bored. And people are now starting to bring to task a little bit of this fact-checking and taking note of a lot of things. And it's pissing off a lot of people. So take note of all of that. Take note of all of that. But this is a very big part of the Jey Uso problem. The Jey Uso problem, more than anything, is that he has not evolved in 5 years. Yes, I will say this 1,000 times over. WWE succeeded in making Jey Uso a legitimate main eventer for any house show they want, an occasional premium live event, no issues at all. They definitely were able to get him to that next level. But that's it. That's all. You cannot force it now, and they are forcing it. If you remember, they were not happy at all that Jey Uso won the Battle Royal to face CM Punk at Saturday Night's Main Event. It's nothing personal against Jey Uso, but when people start feeling like you're forcing the issue, and then you start realizing you're getting the same old shit, and you're hearing this guy complain. People are like, oh my God, what the fuck is wrong with you? And, look, Rikishi, they're doing you wrong, brother. You should consider AEW, brother. They'll treat you better, brother. It's about money in your family. Blah, 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 blah. I sound like Triple H. We're tired of it. We're tired of this. We could keep going. Sami Zayn, look at Sami Zayn. Last week was the anniversary of Sami Uso. Sami Uso. You remember that smile? You remember that laugh? When he became a member of the Bloodline? He got everybody to break character. Sammy's smiling. And now you realize in 2025, they had gots for Sami Zayn. They had nothing for Sami Zayn. They had 6-7 months of carrying Cross at Sami Zayn. And, my appreciation for carrying Cross. But I think even deep down inside, they're like, what are we doing here? For 7 months of nothing. Why do you keep bothering me? Leave me alone. Then you realize without that, he had nothing. And then he goes, let's move him to SmackDown. We're not going to get no real pay. We'll just move him to SmackDown. And then what happens on SmackDown? Gee, well, now what do we do? So what happens? He starts getting into it with the OG, the new bloodline. Sami Zayn's getting into it, the new bloodline. And you see Sami Zayn teaming up with Jimmy. Now how do we kind of separate Jimmy? Oh, we'll just move Jimmy back to Raw. And now you realize they got nothing for Sami Zayn. They gave him the belt, the open challenge. They couldn't even figure out a feud for him. We'll just do the open challenge. This way anybody could face me. There's no storylines. There's no feuds. There's no buildup. And he loses to Ilya, which I don't have any issue with. Now you realize we're at the end of 2025. And let's not forget that Sami Zayn took off twice this year for personal reasons. I.e., we don't have nothing creatively for you. We just keep going and going and going. So, you see what's going on. And Jey Uso, what I think it comes down to is this, plain and simple. 10, 20 years from now, we're going to look back at the Usos as the greatest tag team of this generation. What, admit it or not. You look at the Road Warriors, you look at the Dudleys, you look at the Steiners, you look at the Hardys. Yes, there was a point where Matt Hardy went on his own. Version 1. I don't think that was the right gesture, but Jeff Hardy had a world championship run. But look what's happening now. They're getting older. Their bodies are getting a little bit broken down a little bit, so they reform as a tag team, and that's what everybody wants. Look at the Dudleys. For a while, Bully Ray did a spectacular job as a sole guy, but Devon couldn't do it like he used to. So that was almost by force. But in the end, you look back at history, the Hardys will always be combined together as a tag team. The Dudleys will always be combined as a tag team. Edge and Christian, I think that might be the best example of two guys that were able to break out on their own and kill it for an extended period of time. But they'll always be intertwined. They're forcing, you know what it almost feels like? You remember when Vince McMahon split the Dudleys during the draft? And Bubba went this way, and Devon became he became a brother. Yeah, we had Deacon Batista and Brother Devon with the donation box. Why did you force it? Nobody was asking for this, and then ultimately they came back as a tag team. The only way you're going to resolve this Jey Uso problem, whether Jey likes it or not, whether WWE likes it or not, is you got to put them back as a tag team and just leave it that way. Doesn't mean that they can't wrestle once in a while as singles. But one thing we have all noticed is that every time Jimmy Uso's wrestling as a singles guy, he's the Marty Jannetty of the team. He wrestles on SmackDown, he gets his ass kicked. He takes on this person, he gets his ass kicked. He takes on Drew McIntyre, he gets his ass kicked. He takes on this person, he gets his ass kicked. Takes on Braun Breaker, he gets his ass kicked. Once in a blue moon, he gets a victory. This is the only way to fix the Jey Uso problem. Stop insisting, and you know why they're doing it? Because they don't have that many options. Roman Reigns, part-time player. Cody Rhodes, SmackDown. Brock Lesnar, special attraction, sort of. You start breaking it down. CM Punk is up there in age too, and his body has been breaking down a little bit here and there. They don't have that many options. Bronson Reed, I'm a fan of Bronson Reed, but I don't look at the vision 5 years from now and like the vision is Bronson Reed. No, he's a big man and he'll do just fine, but you're not going to focus your entire promotion around him. Braun Breaker obviously has a bright future. You bring Austin Theory back soon, great. But they did years of damage to Austin Theory. Why? Because he now has a GQ suit on and he's posing with the Vision and he's standing in the ring. We're supposed to forget about the years of ridiculousness. They don't have many options. So they keep forcing this issue and fans are like, we want to see LA Knight get a little bit of a push. We want to see Drew McIntyre get a little of a push. And they're too fucking stubborn to change it around. The days of Daniel Bryan forcing the Yes movement and forcing WWE to change their hand because of it, those days are pretty much gone. You see them focusing on a certain group of people, and whether you like it or not, they're just going to keep doing it. And then you add a celebrity here, you add a social media person here, you add a little thing here, you have a heel turn. When it's absolutely necessary, the final boss will come back. When it's absolutely necessary to sell Survivor Series a little more, AJ Lee will be back. When it's absolutely necessary But you see, there's rumors now that CM Punk is going to face Logan Paul at Saturday night's main event in December. I mean, that's not Survivor Series worthy. That's not a little bit more important than a Saturday night's main event. Saturday night's main event is like watching like a cheap house show with commercials. I mean, it's Saturday night's main event is not what Saturday night's main event used to be. It's just a Saturday night wrestling. I mean, some of these matches, you realize that WWE really doesn't give that much of a shit about. You see Gunther versus Goldberg. Gunther and Goldberg had, I think, the longest or the second longest singles match in Goldberg's career. And it wasn't bad at all. And you would think maybe Saudi Arabia final match. We thought many times WrestleMania, SummerSlam, one of the bigger events. He won't close out a show, but maybe on a 2-night event, Gunther versus Goldberg, retirement match for Goldberg. No, just Saturday night's main event. Glorified house show with commercials, commercial breaks. Just when you're starting to get into a match, you see commercials for Skittles and Snickers and whatever else. And then you come back and it's like, so now you're going to put Logan Paul and CM Punk on Saturday night's main event. So it is what it is, guys. But we just try to bring it up, confront it, whatever your takes are. I would love to hear them. But very quickly, just want to give a thank you to a gentleman who sent 2 super chats, and I did read them right before we went live, so I am a little bit prepared of what you said. This is Police Squad. Police Squad says, hey, DT, what's your reaction to Nixon Newell and Miranda Elise walking out of AEW? Do I smell publicity stunt? And then you also added, check out what James Romero posted about this. Another lie saying that they walked out because they were losing the match. What a dolt. All right. First of all, I'm not going to become the police of other shows out there. I'm going to give James a little bit of a defense here and a little criticism also. I don't want this to be about James. Everybody has every right to give any take they want. But after you posted that, I looked up the clip on YouTube and I watched it. And I also saw this was the thumbnail. All right. They ditched AEW. We already lost once. Now, let me give James a little criticism first. This is just an opinion, and then I will give you my thoughts on them walking out. For people that don't know the story, I'll tell you in a minute. Apparently, James did not know at the time he made this video that they walked out because of the length of the match time. So I'm going to defend James there. When he posted the video, this was before the update was posted by, I think, Fightful. And even the former Tegan Knox, Nixon Newell, said, don't believe everything you read online. So I will defend him there that he put that video out before the fact of the time was released. Now my criticism to James Romero, why are you leaving that thumbnail up? If you know that it has nothing to do with them losing, why are you leaving that thumbnail up? That thumbnail literally takes about 30 seconds to make. You put the same picture of you looking stoic and concerned like you do on all your other thumbnails. You take a little screenshot of them in the back at AEW and you add a little bubble text to it. That's 45 seconds. Just update the thumbnail if that's the case. It reminds me of people on Twitter that will intentionally post something wrong because they want 10,000 people to respond and say, bruh, no, they didn't say that, bruh, you meant this person, bruh, you meant this, bro, you did this, blah, 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 and nobody fucking, let me take it down, let me edit the tweet. No. You leave it up because you get more of a reaction back. Bruh, that's not the reason why. All right, you could post a little text update in your comment section like you did, but 99% of the people don't read that. So there's my criticism of it. Now, I agree with what James said, and I'll say the same thing now. No, I don't think it was a publicity stunt. For those that don't know the deal, Miranda Elise and Nixon Newell are a couple. I will laugh at wrestling news sites that aren't in relationships because it's funny because when you have like a wrestler, a male wrestler dating a female wrestler, they'll say they're a couple. Well, there were a couple. But if you look at the news items from a week ago with Nixon Newell and Miranda Lees, the word, did anybody know the word that everybody kept using? Lovers. Lovers. Because they're lovers. So they wrestled on AEW a week ago, and people are like, oh, you know, they made history quietly because they're lovers and they appear to, you know, just say they're a fucking couple. It's just like, oh, we don't know how to address a bisexual or a lesbian relationship. We'll just call them lovers. That's about they're a couple. And trust me, Google it. Think I'm kidding? Just type their names and put in quotations lovers, and you'll see all the dumb schmucks that wrote that. So what happened was they wrestled a week ago. They lost. They came back this week again as a tag team, and they were set to lose a second match, but the match was only going to be 3 minutes long. So the last time they wrestled, there was almost no time, and they came back and they were told, oh, you're losing in 3 minutes. And they said, nah, we're not gonna go for it. So they walked out. They didn't have the match. So obviously some people behind the scenes in AEW ran to the media and said, look at these fucking two assholes. They're brand new in the company. And, you know, they're complaining about match time. Now, I'll say this, two things. Number one, unless it's Wardlow or Nyla Rose or Powerhouse Hobbs at some points, those are the only times we ever saw AEW matches end in 2 or 3 minutes, maybe even sooner. They would get a lot of squash matches. Women's matches normally aren't 2-3 minutes long. So in one point, I could totally understand them being upset. Holy shit, we're back here second week and we have to lose in 3 minutes. They don't care about the loss. They care about the time. Now, deep down inside, we'll never know if they bitched about the loss. You know, they might realize, oh, everybody will rip us apart because this is sports entertainment. You know, wins and losses don't matter. So they're like, oh, no, well, we'll just say it was the match time. So we don't truly know what the facts are. But I will say this. Neither one of them are regulars in AEW. You're getting your foot in the door. If they tell you you're going to lose in 3 minutes and you're getting paid not by the minute, but you're getting paid by the appearance, you do the fucking match. And then if you're really annoyed at how they use you the first 2 times, the next time they invite you, say, no, I have plans. I really want to come, but I can't. To just walk out because you're annoyed of the match length, honestly, I wouldn't do business with them. And is it a publicity stunt? No, I don't think so, because why would you burn a bridge like that? You know, why would you burn a bridge like that? I just think that is a little bit unprofessional on their part. And I got news for you. If you think about a wrestler walking out of a company for a creative reason, what is the more likely scenario? The length of the match or the outcome of the match? You understand what I'm saying? So again, we'll never truly know what the trigger was. Let's just fucking walk out. Nah, we're not even going to do the match. Fuck it. We'll never know truly what was the exact cause. You know, we know what is being told now, but personally, you're trying to get established. You're trying to get your foot in the door. Maybe get, you know, a little bit of progression. You know, walking out after the second match, definitely unprofessional. I don't care if you're straight gay. I don't care if you got 10 toes or 15 toes. I don't care if you're bisexual, trisexual, homosexual, pansexual. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's getting extra publicity because they're a couple, same-sex couple. That's why this has become bigger news. All right. I personally think it's time to move on. They got plenty of opportunities to work indies, and we just move on from it. That's how I look at it. You know, it's just, it got a little bit weird publicity this week, but, you know, I think we should just move on. I think they made a dumb decision to just leave like that. And if I'm AEW, no, I wouldn't bring them back. And I wouldn't apologize either. This is not like this past weekend's history show where Tony Khan went off on Ella J, and then literally got paranoid. He had to like make amends within 24 hours because of the women's wrestling. Because he wanted more thank yous for what he did for NWA Empower. So, yeah, it is what it is, guys. But Police Squad, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Left Twig says if wins and losses don't matter, then why are there title belts? We're talking about somebody getting your foot in the door. You always got to start somewhere. And in the beginning, you want to just get your name out there. You want to get exposure. You want to get opportunities. All right? They're not fighting to become champions right now. They're just brand new in a company. They're being reintroduced. And you have no history there. You walk in there eating humble pie. And you just take whatever you can take. And you're getting paid well. They got paid well. Honestly, hey, 3 minutes. Look how much money we got for 3 minutes of work. You're taking that to the point where you just walk out of a company. Yeah, that's just totally unprofessional. Oh, I don't know what trisexual is. My point is sexuality should not even be an issue, but this became a bigger issue a week ago because they're a couple. Or as some people reported, they're lovers. They're lovers. To me, when I hear someone write something like that, it almost sounds like two people that are in like a different relationship but are having a fling on the side. Oh yeah, they're lovers. Or they just, have open, like they'll just go with like 10. Now, they're a couple. Just say it like it is. They're a couple. I saw that last week. I'm like, there's a bunch of weirdos in the wrestling news world. Go look it up. Yeah, Sasha and Naomi walked out, but that was a lot different because you're talking about now biggest names in the company making millions, especially on Sasha's part. And, they're being promised and pushed in a certain direction. And then they talked to John Laurinaitis. I think it was Johnny Ace that they went to. And Johnny Ace is like, almost like, just shut up and do your job. And they're like, nah, fuck you, man. Fuck you. And they walked out. That was unprofessional too. No question about it. It was unprofessional. But, if we're honest, I mean, Johnny Ace, not the most professional person either. So, all right. Let's see. We're going to the chat. See if we got any questions over here. So what do you guys think about Chelsea Green defeating Julia for that championship? You a little concerned for Julia? We're in November. November the last couple of years have had some releases. I'm not saying that Julia will get released. I'm not saying that at all. But I think we're right primed to see a couple of releases coming. And you didn't hear from me, but if you heard earlier this year, we brought up a few names that we expect to hear. I think Candice LeRae was one of the names that we said, give it around October, November, you'll hear some news about her. Now they're kind of transitioning her to be more in the coaching area, and that is awesome. If Candice LeRae could do both, that is spectacular. I think WWE wants that with Natalya. I think Natalya is not just ready yet to make that jump. And I think Natalya, the reason why Natalya, because I think Natalya notices and realizes, if I agree to also coach, they're going to have me do nothing but coach. You know what I mean? Like, she'll get an occasional match once in a while, but they're going to, and Candice LeRae, I think her writing on the wall is, look, if I don't take this, then what are my options outside of this company? And I think she realizes, my options are quite limited. So I'm a little concerned of where they're going to go with AAA, because if that title change was done to get a little additional attention to AAA, something is brewing. Something is brewing outside of Mexico, because for a fact WWE does not buy AAA with another partner unless they want to make money and make big money. Now, obviously, you have to branch out beyond Mexico because outside of mostly illegal activity, who in Mexico becomes multimillionaire? You know, unless you're like an actor, an actress, a musician, or, you know, in a cartel, you know, they don't make crazy money. We've talked about, you know, the ticket sales. You even look at Saudi Arabia. You know, we talked about that a few times. You know, Saudi Arabia pays WWE for the event. It's not about the ticket sales. Saudi Arabia is probably going to give away a shitload of tickets for nothing. And a lot of those tickets will probably be the equivalent of like $20. So how does WWE make their revenue? You think Mexico is giving WWE a shitload of money to have events there? So something is brewing with AAA. I don't know what it'll be, but you know, there's not a lot of wrestlers in AAA that have crossover appeal. You know, Mr. Iguana and a couple others, absolutely. But there's quite a few people in AAA that would not get over if they were just on WWE or NXT. You know, once in a blue moon you have someone, fine. But what do you do with all those talents? And obviously they didn't buy AAA for the library because DVDs and documentaries and best ofs are no longer a moneymaker. You know, that's something I kind of miss that we don't see much in wrestling anymore. You know, that's why you don't even see them pursuing libraries like they used to. When Ring of Honor became for sale, just think about that. I don't know how much it was, but let's say Ring of Honor was like $10 million or $4 million. Let me put it this way. Only because I was working on next week's history show. This coming week is the 1-year anniversary of Vince McMahon selling 8 million shares of TKO stock. 8 million. And he sold the stock at $74 a share, something like that. So when you add it up, he got like, let's say, just average it out, say $600 million. Vince McMahon made $600 million a year ago selling TKO stock. The stock now is near $200. So when you realize at $74, he made about $600 million, double that, and the stock is only at $150 a share. So you realize that Vince McMahon, by selling the stock a year ago, if he would have kept it, he would have made close to another $1 billion. If he kept it, $1 billion. That's 1,000 millions. So if Ring of Honor would have became available for $4 or $10 million, if Vince McMahon, I'll buy it, and he had that 1,000 millions, he would have still had 990 million left. It would have been next to nothing. Why did WWE not even pursue it? Because there's no money in it like it used to. You could put a YouTube video here, a YouTube video there, but it doesn't make much of anything. You know, and honestly, you put up old Ring of Honor stuff, you know, how many views you're going to get? Even if you get 80,000 views or 100,000 views for a match, you know, what kind of ad revenue do you think that is with commercials? There's no, oh, well, you know, we'll just put a commercial in there every 30 seconds that some people do. Drives you nuts. But it's not the moneymaker anymore. Let's see. Shout out to Michelle Govan. She thinks Liv and Dom were going to win the mixed tag titles until the injury. Yeah, you know what? I like that idea, but I don't know if you agree with me, but even though Dominic is getting over so much as a babyface, it's almost like we need to see when Liv Morgan comes back and Dom like sees a, oh my God, smack. Like you almost feel like Liv Morgan has got to get, he's already like putting skin lotion on his face. He's making his face nice and soft and subtle because when she returns, there's got to be one major slap for him. I don't think we're going to have where Dominic and Liv Morgan become babyface, go rogue, and, you know, start working the house shows. Because I don't think it'll turn into a Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley situation Rhea Ripley is safe, but Damian Priest, oh my God. Not a good 2025 for Damian Priest, if we're being honest. It was not a good year. But, I could see Liv and Dom being a mixed tag. If Liv never got injured, I could see that. If Liv never got injured, I could definitely see that happening. But I like Dom as the mega champion. He's got it. He's got it. And the coolest thing about it is, you don't have to tweak anything. You just let Dom do what he's doing. Little moments here and there, he sneaks in a little bit of acknowledgement to the fans. And that's just enough that the fans need. And, I think what happened with him and his father on Raw is going to lead to Santos Escobar returning. The only question is, Santos Escobar, does he come back as a babyface or does he come back as a heel? And honestly, I would have Dominic get into it with Santos Escobar. I mean, as a team, not tag teaming, but I think there should be an alliance there. I don't think Santos Escobar is as good as a babyface. I love the Scarface look that he has. It's believable. Like, you see him, if you saw him on the street dressed like that, you honestly would think he's pimping. I mean, he doesn't look like he's wearing a costume. Definitely would like to see him return as a heel. Bloody Money, who do I think of the mystery opponent for LA Knight? I don't know. It could be Santos Escobar. I don't know. I mean, let me put it this way. Next week, not this coming history episode, next week is the anniversary of the debut of Scripps in NXT. And I went back and I revisited those videos, those hype videos of all the chaos and destruction and everything that Scripps was going to do. And it gave like Retribution vibes. And at the time, there were two people that everybody thought Scripps was going to be. It was either going to be, who's Wesley's partner in MSK? Oh, God, I'm drawing a fucking blank. I hate when I draw blanks like that. Who is his partner in the Rascals? And it's going to just like Zach Wentz. Thank you very much, Starfighter. Zach Wentz. People thought it was either going to be him or it was going to be, I'm trying to remember. Some people said Dolph Ziggler, and some people also said, oh God, who is the guy in the tag team with Fandango? Oh my God, Breezango, Tyler Breeze. It's late night, guys, late night. Tyler Breeze. Those were the two. Mostly it was Tyler Breeze and Zach Wentz. You go back and you look a year ago, and they post the teaser video that next week Scripps will be revealed. 90% of the posts were Tyler Breeze or Zach Wentz, and a few for Dolph Ziggler. And it ended up being fucking Reggie. It ended up being Reggie. Like, like who really is on the back burner that we haven't seen in a while? Outside, there's no mystery people. There's no mystery people. It's going to be, I don't think it's really going to matter all that much. Dave Arlo says this, do I think Hunter watches podcasts? I think he definitely browses to see what the pulse is about topics. I think for sure. I mean, I've talked to people in wrestling over the years who were supportive of what I did, what Kevin and I did, God rest his soul. And, we used to ask how pertinent are podcasts? And, we would get interesting answers back. I mean, they don't take advice for the most part of what people say, but they will take notice of patterns. There's a group of people that the noise, there's definitely a certain group of people that there is a noise. And I think for a lot of that noise, they understand what it is. As far as even the style of how some people make money. You see it. We bring it up. I think the person right now who is crashing burning, and it's a beautiful thing, is David Otunga. Nothing personal against him, but he's crashing and burning right before our very eyes because this motherfucker is still trying to legally tell us about no competes in the WWE. So some show last week got in touch with him and said, listen, could you come on and, we'll talk about the no compete. They have this really nice model-like picture of him in the corner. And it says David Otunga legally breaks down the WWE no compete clauses. And it had less views than my episode last week. And I'm like, it's a beautiful thing because number one, every wrestler signs a no compete clause. They sign the contract. They're not doing it under duress. They don't get the Janelle Grant cocktail. What am I signing here? Just drink this. Oh, I sign anything. I sign my life away. These wrestlers know what they're signing. And you get these legal experts and this and that, and the greatest. David Otunga, Harvard graduate, former boyfriend of Jennifer Hudson, I think. I think it's the anniversary of their breakup. But this guy's telling us, oh, maybe WWE is using it as leverage to get Edge to take on Cena. Dumb Polak. Fool. You're a Harvard legal lawyer saying that? Fool. WWE would get sued beyond belief if they fucked with Andrade for a year-long no compete clause because they want to use him for Edge. Oh my God, this is a legal scholar. But, again, I think Hunter and some wrestlers will browse, and some wrestlers absolutely vanity search their names. Oh my God. You'd be shocked at how many people vanity search their names to see what is being said about them. Listen, at the end of the day, and I say this with utmost sincerity, wrestlers are human just like us. They bleed the same colors. They cry just like us. They get very, emotional. I've always said it. People, I used to get criticized. I used to feel awful for Lana, CJ Perry, because she would really, really like the criticism online. She would really break down over that. And people used to say to me, she's a millionaire. She's beautiful. She's got this. Oh, don't fucking, she's a big girl. She can handle herself. She can't handle it, then maybe she should be working in a Walgreens. But you can't look at it like that. How many people that have been famous, end up having some mental health crisis, big time. You would think, oh my God, they have everything they possibly could dream of. And they're even sadder than us. So a lot of wrestlers will watch podcasts, will browse to see what the overall pulse is. That's why the Jey Uso stuff is fucking fascinating, especially from 5 years ago, because if you Google 5 years ago, go on social media from 5 years ago, there's ways to look. There was not this huge outcry of the IWC versus Jey Uso. It wasn't. There wasn't any. If anything, the people were like, wow, the match that he had with Roman in the feud. People, and listen, the Bloodline, how many of us back then said that Jey Uso was the MVP in the Bloodline storyline for big chunks of it? There was not this, then you realize, okay, that's how I get over. I make it the world versus us. I'm a victim. No, Jay, you're not a victim. It's about me and my family. Good for you. Good for you. You're the greatest tag team of all time. All right. If you understand what I'm saying? Like the guy has done everything he could possibly do. So it's not the world versus him. It's just like, oh, if you stick with me, we'll, together, we'll overcome. He doubted me, Roman doubted me, you doubted me, he doubted me. I don't think I can do it. I can't do it without all of you. That's the formula. And people are like, man, stop using us. Have a Snickers bar if you're that uptight. So, all right. I don't think Jay has gotten worse. I think he's gotten a little bit, I don't want to even say flabby, but you notice he wrestles with his t-shirt on more. He'll take it off during matches. It's not like he's fat or anything like that. I think Jay, I just think, let me put it this way. For the last year and a half, 2 years especially, when Jey Uso really started to climb the legitimacy as a singles main eventer, his aura, his charisma, his actions, his reactions in the ring reflected someone that is working their way up to the top. Even if they lost, even if they got win by disqualification, even if he got attacked, jumped by a bunch of people, no matter what the situation was, it was all a formula to get him to the next level. So everything he was doing, the idea is it's slowly getting him to the next level. And he succeeded. Now he's here. And you're at your peak. You're at your zenith. And you can't force that. And they're trying to force it. And it's getting negative reaction. And his matches are no longer this. No matter how many times he says to Jimmy in the back, Jay needs to care about Jay. I need to find myself. I need to be champion again. I need to do this. I need to focus. I need this. I need that. I need this. No, you need to reform a tag team with Jimmy Uso. So when he's in these matches, there's no longer that uphill, even if he isn't champion right now, because we already know the outcome. There was no doubt. We knew that he had no shot of regaining the championship. Whether he wrestled Seth Rollins a few months ago or he wrestled CM Punk at Saturday Night's Main Event, you know the outcome. He's not the underdog anymore. He's not the one next in line, or people think, could this be the night? Sami Zayn, that's going to be coming soon. Sami Zayn will be world champion. I don't even know. Will he win the Royal Rumble? I don't say it's out of the question. I think, this is what's been going on with Sami Zayn. I need this. I must have this. Problem is, you have Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes and then Gunther, kind of in the way. So Sammy, I think it's in the cards that he will eventually become world champion. And then what? How do you keep on that level? That's the problem. A lot of wrestlers don't know how to stay on that level. You know who does a spectacular job of that? Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre gives the perception that he's upset. And then a lot of the tertiary news outlets out there that have no brain on their own. Drew McIntyre walked out of the building. He got into his car and he sped away. Blah, 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 blah. And remember the meeting that we were told when TKO first took over. Remember the meeting that Triple H of Creative said to all the wrestlers. As long as there's someone around, always assume that there's an iPhone recording. There's people around, always assume you're being recorded. That's why you see everybody pretty much staying in character, whether under the arena, on the rampway, in the back, in the parking lot, no matter where it is. So, it's all strategic by Drew McIntyre. Oh my God, he walked out of Busted Open. Fuck everybody. And then literally the next day he's on, I think he was on Twitch. No, he was on, what, I forget which one he was on. But he was talking about, I'll take on John Cena. And people are putting like cartoon emojis on his face and he's just going along with it and acting like, nothing is TikTok. That's what he was on. Go look it up. Literally like a day later after he walked out of Busted Open, told everyone to go fuck themselves. He's literally on TikTok, like having gags and laughing and people are doing this. Drew McIntyre's the master of it. He knows what's going on. He knows what his role is. He's getting paid very, very well. And he understands that right now it's not in the cards for him. So he's going to do whatever he needs to do. And he'll play off that, it's annoying him. There's a lot of realism. The feeling is there. A lot of wrestlers don't know how to do that. So Jey Uso, it's always, you doubted me. You doubted me. This person does this. It's me against the world. Everybody does this. What's your problem? And 5 years go by. 5 years. And he's saying the same old shit. Guy is still massively over. Let's not deny that. Jey Uso is still extremely popular. He is not fucked. All right, this is repairable, but we need WWE to start waking up and saying, listen, you know, you're one half of the greatest tag team of this generation. You look back at the legendary, iconic tag teams over the years, and at the end of the day, you're always remembered, for the most part, as a tag team wrestler. You know, you had your run, you have this. It doesn't mean that Jey Uso still can't main event once in a while on his own. But they need to reform and leave it. And leave it. And if WWE creatively doesn't know what to do with it, that's WWE's fault. That's not their fault. Roderick says, my thoughts on Mercedes being in blood and guts. Feels very random and forced. She has no beef with the other women in the match outside of Statlander. Who's only in for Mercedes? Can I ask you guys all something before I answer Roderick's question? Just tell me yes or no. Tell me yes or no, because I'm not going to lie. I haven't really looked that deep, but I'm sure I'm not the only one. Anybody notice who Chris Statlander reminds you of recently? Anybody notice on the rampway, the way she's dressed, her mannerisms? Yeah, anybody notice when who does she remind you of? Does anybody? I want to see if anybody says it. Who does Chris Statlander remind you of? We got somebody saying China. We have somebody saying Bailey. Go back and watch Chris Statlander laying out Mercedes Moné on Dynamite. Go watch it. She looks like she's cosplaying. No one has still said it. She's cosplaying Lita. Think I'm kidding? Go look at the baggy clothes. I'm not saying that she doesn't dress like that before, but look at the baggy clothes. Look at the half shirt with the fishnet. Look at her hair. Look at some of her mannerisms. Look at the way she's punching. Go watch. Go watch. I almost was going to make a play on a thumbnail called Chris Statlander. Lita. I'm not saying she's inspired by Lita, but if you go back and watch it, go watch this past week when she nailed Mercedes Moné. I literally was like, holy shit, she looks so much like Lita from many, many years ago. Listen, again, I'm not saying she's trying to be Lita, but if you look at her mannerisms, listen, she wasn't there doing anything, like what she used to do when she used to come out with the Hardys, but go look at her outfit and look at, it reminded me a lot of, it reminded me of Lita. So, yeah, and that's not a knock. No. This is not a criticism on Chris Statlander. Not at all. Trust me, it beats the alien stuff. Remember when her head was upside down wearing the alien shit? Trust me, this is a compliment. Mercedes being in blood and guts. This is how I look at it. It's on Collision. Collision has been averaging less than 300,000 viewers. If you believe some others, it's actually 600,000 if you include Max. You need a name in there, big name. Now, last week, Mercedes Moné wrestled on Collision, and they still drew less than 300,000. But because Mercedes has a history of main eventing big events, WrestleMania, Hell in a Cell, she has experience. How many of those wrestlers truly have experience wrestling in a cage? So Mercedes Moné being in there, even for a spot, I expect her to be the chicken shit and try to get out of Dodge and try to avoid, maybe even she'll probably be the last person to really get involved in the match. There's going to be a lot of play on, why did they waste the spot by putting her in the match? That's going to be done by design. Even they did that on Dynamite. Remember when she ran to the ring and she was like, you know what? Why am I going to waste? No. And then Chris Statlander nailed her. You have to put her in there as a big name. There's going to be a point where every member on the opposite team is going to surround her. And if they play their cards right, she should piss off her own teammates also. And maybe there's a point where the other team surrounds Mercedes Moné and she realizes, oh, hey, teammates, partners, you have my back, right? And then she turns around and everybody's like, nah, you're on your own for this one. That's kind of where I think they should go with this. You want Mercedes Moné to be like that person that no one has her back because she's too much of an asshole, too much of a conceited asshole. So that's what I kind of think they're going to do. So, you know what? Starfighter says Mara Sade looks more like Lita. Well, she's just got the half-cut shirt, but if you look at Chris Statlander, the way she had her hair and the way she was doing, she does like the forearms. She reminded, everything about her gave me flashbacks of Lita. Again, I'm not saying that she deliberately is doing that, but it gave me, listen, Lita, I don't know if she revolutionized that look back in the day. Just saying, she just reminded me. I was just curious if anybody was reminded of that also. So, yeah, today is the 28-year anniversary of the Montreal Screwjob. It's one of those moments. I remember where I was, what I was doing. I was, living somewhere else with my ex. We weren't married or anything like that, but I remember watching it and went on the internet like right afterwards. Then keep in mind, 1997, you didn't have social media like this. You didn't even have MySpace yet. You had message boards, you had AOL chats, and you started to hear little drips and drabs that he was screwed. I mean, you watch back, when Earl Hebner called for the bell, you knew something was up because Vince was around ringside and he was looking around like, something was up, and they had the look on Bret Hart's face. Bret Hart had that look like, what the fuck just happened? But, he spit in Vince's face, and that was obviously a big deal. But remember, Bret had issues with Vince already, if you remember leading up to this. But when it finished and you started hearing things, I had already started my wrestling hotline. I started my wrestling hotline, I think around April. I think it was March or April of 97. So I went on my hotline and I think we did like 2 or 3 updates that night. Like every time we did an update, we would hear like more information and we would redo the hotline. But it was pretty surreal. But at that time, you could only imagine, especially when you have a 56. Let me put it this way. A lot of you guys, when there's a pay-per-view going on, whether it's AEW or WWE Premium Live event, and you're not watching it because you're not paying for it. And what do? You go on social media and you'll just keep reloading, waiting for a match result to come up. Or you're on the wiki page and you're just reloading to wait until the match result updates to see what happened. Even if you're watching coverage of a baseball game or a playoff game and you don't have the capability of watching a game, so you just keep reloading a page for an update. Back then, when you had 56K modem, sometimes it would take 3 minutes to load a page. Back in the day when you would load a photo, trust me, especially if you got like a nudie pic. How many of you remember when you would load a nudie pic back with 56K modem, like the picture would start like loading and you'd see the head and you see the neck. And just when you're about to see the chest, suddenly all of a sudden you start seeing like the legs. And meanwhile, there's like a white box between of it. And it's like, took like 2 minutes to load. It was not fun. It was not fun. So you couldn't just keep reloading to get information. I checked my voicemail repeatedly. I checked my email, checked some websites at the time. And the information was coming in so slow. And then you would have a couple of fans that say, I was there and he was throwing monitors and he even did the WCW in the ring. You know, it was pretty surreal. But I remember exactly where I was. I remember watching it, and you knew something was up, but you didn't know how much. And, you know, what I always remember is when Shawn Michaels got the belt and he looked pissed. And we would find out many years later that he was in on it and trying to play off that, you know, he was pissed off as much as Bret. Like, this is not how I wanted to win it. Tristan, my thoughts on Roddy Piper hitting Snuka with the coconut. One of my favorite moments of all time. Iconic, spectacular. Snuka was one of my favorites. Snuka was my favorite before I became a gigantic fan of Terry Funk. Up until 1983, Snuka was my favorite wrestler. Then Terry Funk came into play around 84, and I did some little research on Terry Funk and became an even bigger fan. And then he beat the fuck out of Mel Phillips, which was a wonderful thing. And Terry Funk immediately became my favorite. But yeah, Stinger says Bret spitting on Vince was shown, but not a close-up. Yeah, no, you didn't see that until after when he had fucking lungies in his face. But remember, Bret had some issues with Vince on TV. He yelled bullshit. He even pushed Vince down, I think, on an episode. And, you know, there was definitely issues with Bret and Vince already, even when Bret was feuding with Steve Austin. You know, so the spitting on Vince, you know, I don't think we realized the magnitude of what was going on until you started hearing things. And I think Dave Meltzer is one of the first. No matter how you feel about Dave Meltzer right now, and yes, I mean, he's obviously a shell of what he used to be, but he was one of the first to really put that out there and, you know, definitely got some reliable information. Not everything was 100% accurate, but you really didn't have many options at that time. Certainly didn't want to hear ML Curley. If anybody remembers ML Curley, I never got my information from ML Curley. So I think he's dead now. That guy, oh my God. Thank God he did jail time. Let's just say that he was involved with children for the wrong reasons. Bobby Means, am I a fan of Hershey's dark chocolate? I hate dark chocolate. I'm a milk chocolate kind of guy. But not dark chocolate. No. Definitely not. Oh yeah, no, as far as Vince McMahon, you know, when he did the interview on TV with Jim Ross, and he's got a little bit of a shiner, saying that Bret didn't do Bret forgot that this was a business. Bret screwed Bret. I mean, it was surreal at the time. But, you know, you got to remember, too, we had 900 hotlines. WCW had 1-900-909-9900. I don't think Brian Pillman had his hotline anymore. What was Brian Pillman's hotline? 1-900-909-PILL. Shh. You may learn something. You may hear something you're not supposed to. The ECW hotline, absolutely the ECW hotline definitely gave some dirt with that. ECW made money off of that. WCW had their hotline for sure. I don't remember which ones I called. I think I definitely called ECW. I probably called WCW. But back then they would charge like $2 a minute. And, you know, they were very strategic, but, you know, a lot of you know this story. I ended up fucking ECW in the ass in the end. For any of you that don't know this story, I got to share it at least once. I always wished that either Paul Heyman or Joey Styles, even Bubba Ray Dudley, I think, or Tommy Dreamer would get a laugh out of it also because they were involved in the merchandise department too. I ended up, I don't want to say frauding ECW, because, you know, I ended up working for them, pushing tickets for a year towards the end. But I definitely got my money back from calling the hotline, because here's a cool little story, and this is true. Back when ECW had their hotline, it was, I think $1.99 a minute. I don't remember if it was $1.50 or $2 a minute, but it was 100 something for ECW, I think it was. And you would call the hotline, and you would press 1, I think, for news. You press 2 for something else, and then you press, I think, 3 for trivia. And what would happen is, if you press 3, they would do a trivia contest. And it was all, numerical. You press 1 for this, press 2 for this answer. And you would, actually, I do remember it now. You had to listen to news first. You had to listen to at least like 3 or 4 minutes of news first. So you're already about $7, $8 in on the call. And then after it was over, you can take part in trivia and get a chance to win an ECW t-shirt or an ECW hat. So what happened was, after many times calling the hotline, I would always try the trivia contest, and in the beginning I would get them wrong. Or I would get like 1 wrong, and that was it. So one time I did it and I got them all right. I left my name, I left my address. About 2 weeks later, I get an ECW hat in the mail. And the funny thing is, and I don't know if anybody's ever brought this up, any of you out there ever talked to Tommy Dreamer or Bubba Ray, especially Dreamer, I think they'll tell you the truth. I don't know what quality they used for their hats, but the ECW logo, after about 15 years, turned into piss yellow. The ECW hats, the logo would turn into yellow, like urine yellow. And I had them in the closet stored away, and just aging, they turned yellow like urine. Every single one. I had to throw them out. So anyway, I call the hotline and I get it right. I leave my name and address. I get a hat. I'm like, oh, this is cool. ECW had a catalog at the time. It was only maybe like 10 pages. And I think hats were like 15 or 20 bucks. So, hey, if I listen for 4 minutes and I win the contest, I'm only spending $8 and I get a hat. So one thing I noticed was that they would have like 20 different questions and would randomly select questions each time. And I would write down all the questions and I would research the answers. So when I would call up, it would say like, who was the first ever ECW champion? Press A for Terry Funk. Press B for Don Morocco. Press C for Jimmy Snuka. And you'd press it and it would go to the next one. And it would say like, who had the, and I got about like 10 hats. Between hats and shirts, I think I got like 10 hats and a couple of shirts because I memorized all the answers every time I would call. And they kept sending them. I would leave my name and address and they kept sending them. And I was like, this is cool, man. Why should I spend $20 for a shirt when I could get it for $6, $7? That is God honest, true story. And it's not something you can make up. This story, if anybody ever asked them, they'll tell you. That is legit. But they charged crazy amounts of money at that time. WCW was a little bit of a ripoff. Especially, I think it was Mean Gene Okerlund would do some of the hotlines. I don't remember who else did them. Mean Gene Okerlund was definitely on them. And this is your WCW update for. And what sucked about it was sometimes it wouldn't update right away. So I think as long as you hung up within the first 10 seconds, you wouldn't be charged for the call. But sometimes they would be like, this is Mean Gene Okerlund, and you're listening to the WCW hotline for, and then after like 10 seconds, they reveal the date, and like, fuck, I got charged $1.50 or whatever it was, because they wouldn't say it right away. Do you guys, you want to hear something pretty fabulous that I didn't even know? I totally forgot about. This coming week is the anniversary of Randy Orton and Tony Khan having a little bit of a Twitter spat. And it ended up involving Brandy Rhodes and Charlotte as well. I think Charlotte called Brandy, Brandy called Charlotte a clown. I think that's what it was. And basically, Randy Orton brought up how a year earlier, Shad Khan was being investigated for corruption. And it had to do with, something he was trying to purchase overseas. And I did not realize this, but at the time, Shad Khan put in an offer to buy Wembley. I don't know if it was $600 million, which sounds awfully cheap, but Shad Khan, Tony Khan's father, at one point tried to buy Wembley. And I was like, I wonder if they got a little bit of a sweetheart deal because of some relationships. I don't know. But that would have been pretty fascinating if Shad Khan would have bought Wembley. That would have been pretty interesting. So, listen, I don't want to overhype it. The Brandy Charlotte exchange really wasn't much. To give you a short story of it, and I'll cover it on the next episode. By the way, before I even say anything, here's a little pictorial screenshot of what we covered on this episode. Those are just some photos. Yes, that is Dustin Rhodes dressed in blackface. That was on Monday Night Raw. That was interesting in itself. These are just little anniversaries. This is stuff that we covered on this past report. But there's one that I just couldn't stop laughing about. If you see over here on the screen, see the bottom? I think this one. That, to me, is probably the funniest story out of everything that I covered on the last update, including the Dominic Mysterio prank call by Zelina Vega. I made that photo myself of Noam Dar, but I think it was like 5 years ago or 6 years ago. And I totally forgot about this story. I looked in my notes. Noam Dar was all over social media pleading everyone to tell everyone that he doesn't have any profiles on any like singles apps. And what happened was every singles sex app that was available at the time, somebody was pretending to be Noam Dar. And he showed up on Grindr, Plenty of Fish, Tinder, like every sex app, there would be a Noam Dar profile. And it was funny because it wasn't his email. So he wasn't getting like proposition from a bunch of like fat women and maybe men as well. But it was funny because he was getting contacted on social media and people were like, I sent you a message on this profile, or I liked your profile and you never responded back. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, your profile on Plenty of Fish. I thought that was fucking great, man. I couldn't stop laughing. I looked at my old notes. I'm like, how did I fucking forget about this story? But I don't want to overhype Randy Rhodes and Charlotte. I'm sure they've ironed things out since. Long story short, CM Punk was debuted on WWE Backstage. Remember the show on Fox? CM Punk made a surprise debut. And CM Punk basically was teasing that nothing is out of bounds. He's going to talk about whatever. And Tony Khan responded and said, oh, this sounds like perfect example of when the wrestlers got stuck in Saudi Arabia. So Tony Khan is now in AEW, has AEW started, and he's now throwing a shot at WWE in Saudi Arabia. And Randy Orton responded back and said, hey, Tony, people who have glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And Randy Orton posted a link of Tony Khan's father being investigated for corruption. So Tony Khan responds back and says, that article's a year old and it was proven to be false. And he threw a couple of insults. Oh, and he said to Randy Orton, he says, at least I didn't get caught using the N-word on Twitch or something. Because a lot of you may remember Randy Orton said the N-word. I don't think he said it in like being hateful, but still got caught saying it. So Tony Khan brought this up on Twitter, trying to get back at Randy Orton. So Brandy Rhodes responded and said, this is over by knockout, saying that Tony Khan knocked out Randy Orton. Like, that's it. Tony Khan won the argument. So Charlotte responds back and just says, like, please. And Brandy Rhodes called Charlotte a clown. She was like clown emojis and stuff. And that's when I pretty much stopped. I'm like, okay, that's enough for me. So that's pretty much a story. But, we'll revisit it on this weekend. I don't know. I might have to put the history show up a day or two early or a day or two late because I got to get surgery this coming Friday, which is not going to be fun. So, yeah, no, Randy Orton, everything's been ironed out with Brandy Rhodes. I think it was more lighthearted than anything else. But with Tony Khan, you know, you got to take it a little bit more seriously because it does go to his head, obviously. Thank you very much, VMR. I always try to throw in a little history stuff, you know, because there's so many things that have been forgotten and things that we probably didn't even know happened. I totally forgot the Noam Dar thing. And when I was revisiting and looking, I couldn't stop laughing. Because I could just imagine this guy showing up, you know, like all his profiles on these sites. The thing is, though, is his profile did not show up on any gay sites, which is not a big deal. But I was like, it would have been pretty interesting to see the kind of reactions that he would have gotten on those sites also. But it was pretty wild. I mean, you know, we see Sense, you know, wrestlers are being spoofed all the time. Every other day, I get Alexa Bliss follow me on Twitter. How many of you get the fake Alexa Bliss counts? Just, I mean, out of anybody in wrestling right now, nobody gets catfish like that or gets copied like Alexa Bliss. She's got like 9,000 profiles on social media. But the Noam Dar thing was priceless, man. It was priceless. To me, the two funniest stories with stuff like that is Noam Dar showing up on all these sex apps and Liv Morgan actually getting scammed, thinking that a fan sold his house, thinking he was selling it for Liv Morgan. That kind of pissed me off at the time about Liv Morgan. I wasn't expecting a thank you, but she was so embarrassed about getting scammed herself, no money involved or anything, that she just like let it go. And for those that don't remember the story, a couple of years ago, Liv Morgan gets a message, a DM from a fan that says that he sold his house thinking he was selling it to Liv Morgan because Liv Morgan needed money. So he sold his house, gave Liv Morgan the money. But it ended up, it wasn't Liv Morgan. The person who sold the house gave it to a scammer. So Liv Morgan puts this emotional plea on social media. Please, guys, you know, this is not me. And somebody lost their house because of me. And I feel terrible. And I'm like, honey, you're talking to the fucking scammer. Nobody sold their house. I mean, what do you think? You just signed it over and that's it. Habib is now from Calcutta because that's where it came from, Calcutta. He now is living in the guy's house. I'm like, the scammer is actually reaching out to you. He's hoping that maybe you'll feel bad enough that you'll give the guy the money back so he could buy his house back. And she didn't want to hear it. So I had to post it online. I posted it, one of the rare YouTube clips that I posted at the time. But then I realized nobody really wanted to know the truth. But it was kind of funny. Liv Morgan thought she was talking to the victim. And it was the scammer. I sold my house. I have no place to live. I don't know what to do now. Live, no pun intended. I have no place to live. He live, see, play on words. And Liv was like, oh my God, I feel terrible. Nobody, please do not say out. It was the scammer trying to get money from her. But you see how gullible some people are? You know, it's scary. It's scary. Some of my elderly customers that come into my office, they ask me about everything. And I'm sure a lot of you have gotten the text messages that if you don't pay this parking ticket, your driver's license is going to be suspended. That's the new one lately. And there's a link and you click on it and nothing comes up. And then you respond back to the text. It's like, listen, the link is not coming up. Oh, what's your name? What's your date of birth? What's your plate number? And people actually fucking give it. People fall for it. One of my customers, I'll tell you very quickly a story. It's disturbing. But I guarantee you one of you out there has had a family member this happened to. I won't mention her name. None of you would know who she is. But right now she's about 77. She's still a customer of mine. About 5 or 6 years ago, I had gone to her house to fix something on a computer. And while I was on the thing, she gets like a Skype call. And it's some guy, you know, from Russia or whatever. And she's like, oh, no, I need to take that. I need to take it. I'm like, okay. So I'm in the background and I hear her talking and, you know, it sounds like a scam. And this guy is telling her, like, I can't wait to see you and this and that. And she finishes the call. She says, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, who was that? And she's like, oh, I met this man online and, you know, he lives in Russia and he's trying to come to the United States, but he's having some problems right now. And I'm saying to myself, oh, my God, she's being catfished. And I'm like, have you ever like seen video of him? She's like, he sent me pictures. I'm like, yeah, but has he ever sent video? And she says, no. And I said, listen, I think you're being scammed. She's like, no, I've talked to him. I'm like, yeah, but you know, you don't find it weird. And I showed her some websites that it scams like this. So I said, do you trust me to just ask him a question? And she's like, I really don't, you know, want you to. She's like, he's not a scam. She just refused to believe that this guy was scamming her. She thought that she was finding love. She's single. She'd never been married. Was 72 5 years ago. So she agrees and she says, just say you're my brother. I said, okay. So she goes on Skype and she rings it. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, hey, baby, you know, and because he didn't know that I was using a computer. So he answers the thing and he's like, hey, baby. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he's like, who's this? I said, I'm Tony. I said, I'm so-and-so's sister. And he's like, oh, I didn't know she had a sister. I'm like, yeah, she never told you. I said, well, probably no reason to bring me up. I was like, hey, listen, she was telling me the fabulous news that you're going to be coming to New York and this and that. I said, could you do me a favor? I said, because she told me that you wanted her to Western Union you like $12,000 for tickets and other stuff. I was like, could you just, for a favor, because there's a lot of scams going on, you know, in this state, could you just send like a picture of you holding up a piece of paper with her name on it? And he's like, you don't believe me? And he's like, baby, you don't believe me? And I looked at her and she started to realize, oh my God, I'm being scammed. And I said to him, I said, listen, what's the big deal? How dare you accuse me of scam? I love her, your sister. And I'm like, guy, I'm happy. I said, but you know, I'm looking out for my sister. I was like, just take a picture. Stand in a fucking mirror, grab your phone, just write her name down on a piece of paper and hold it up. So it's real. I said, and I'll help her send whatever. And I'm just like, you know what? Fuck you. I said, you're a fucking scammer. I said, how dare you do that to her? She thinks that you're really coming to New York and she fell in love with you and this and that. And he's like, I'm going to fucking come to New York and I'm going to kill you, motherfucker. I'm going to find out who you are. I'm like, good, motherfucker, come here. And I was a little nervous because he was Russian, you know, and the last time I dealt with Russians, you know, Jasmine St. Clair got the Russian mafia after me. We don't need to talk about that tonight. But she was devastated. She was so brokenhearted. She was very, very thankful, but she was so brokenhearted. She almost wired this guy like $10,000 to cover expenses, tickets, so he could move to come to New York. And she believed it. And it was all a lie. Now, whenever I get like someone that'll ask me something like that, now I show them the Google image search. Because I have a guy right now, I swear to God, this happened about a year ago. It's the funniest thing. It's the funniest thing. I got a guy, he's about, I would say in his late 70s now. He's a single guy. His wife died a few years ago. I went to the funeral. A lot of you know the story because this is the guy that wouldn't leave me alone. A lot of you know the story, especially on Patreon. So what happened was he comes in about a year ago. He said, I met this woman online. She's beautiful. So he says, you want to see a picture of her? I said, yeah. So he shows it on my phone and he shows me a picture of her. And the girl is like in her mid-20s, looks like a model. Now this guy is like 70 something years old. And if I was 90 and in heat and the only person, and I'm a woman and the only person I could slam is him, I would not sleep with him. To me, he looks like a shriveled up, smelly hot dog. But he showed me this picture and I said to him, I said, don't take this the wrong way. I said, you don't find it strange that, you know, the age difference? I didn't want to say that he's uglier than me. But he's like, no, she's into older men. She hasn't had a father in her life. And I'm like, you sure it's really her? So I said, could you do me a favor? And he emails me the picture. So I take the picture and I go on Google Images and I load the picture and I said, I don't want to say his name, but I said, listen, I said, when I click this button, I said, you might not like what you're about to see. So he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, can I show you? And he's like, yeah, show me. So I pressed the button. All of a sudden, Google image results. This fucking woman's face showed up on all these clothing sites. Like she was a model for clothes. And I'm like, hey, I was like, somebody's using her pictures. I was like, that's not really her. I said, if you don't believe me, next time you talk to her, tell her to take a picture in the mirror holding a sign with your name on it or holding a picture of you, something. And he realized he was being scammed. So people really fall for that shit, man. There's an old saying, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. I used to be a big bullshitter. Remember my old alias? Remember my old hotline name? Bullshita. When Eddie Guapo, if anybody remembers Eddie Guapo, was an indie wrestler here in New York. Spanish guy, Eddie Guapo. And in USA Pro Wrestling, we turned him into an Indian. We got him a turban. We got him a whole Indian outfit. I actually bought the outfit, and I actually went to the person's house, and it needed to be blessed. It was legitimately real deep shit. I mean, you do not buy something like that from India and just wear it like a costume. You get killed for that. I literally had to go to somebody's house, and they blessed it and told the reason that he was portraying a character, and it's all done in respect. And we literally bought a carpet. He was doing a whole Sabu thing. I know it's politically incorrect now in 2025, but I wanted to name him Gonorrhea Akbar, because when you spell it like that, it sounds like gonorrhea. And Mass Maniac got heat for it. So he changed the name to Gandhi Rhea Akbar. But if you said it fast enough, it sounded like Gonorrhea Akbar. And I made custom theme music for him. I still have the theme music. Maybe I'll share it one day. And based on that, I started on the old Minority Report days. If anybody's a patron, go check out the first 2-3 years of Kevin and I doing shows with Joey 924. And the name I would use is Abul Shita. A-B-U-L. And the last name was S-H-E-T-T-A-H. Abul Shita. And if I said it fast enough, I would say, I'm a bullshitter. I'm a bullshitter. I'm a bullshitter. That was literally my name 22 years ago. 22 years ago. A bullshitter. I was a bullshitter. Can't out bullshit a bullshitter. I'm not a scammer, but when you're old like me, you pick up on everything, so. All right, we're almost at 2 hours. Let's start bringing this home. Eddie Guapo was a really, really cool guy. Definitely loved his work. Definitely got a lot of heat for the Gandhi Rhea Akbar name. Again, could not do that in 2025, but 20 years ago was a little bit different. I mean, Benjamin says, would Rikishi try to run you over with his car if he saw this episode? No, because you know why I don't think so, honestly, Benjamin? Because, number one, I still admit that Jey Uso is extremely over. But you're starting to see holes that you never saw before. Like, when you realize that for a long time, Jey Uso was claiming that the world was against him, and they really weren't. But now it's starting to happen. And you want to stop that before it snowballs. You're starting the early. This is not like Cena back in the day where we started getting Super Cena and you started to hear a little bit of the reaction like, it's not a big deal. Oh, the kids and the girls love him. The guys are just jealous. Then it started getting a little bit louder and a little bit louder, and people were getting annoyed, started really despising Cena. You look back on it now, everything worked out, but still, Jey Uso, this is a problem that he thought he had for 5 years, But now it's really happening. It's really happening. And how do you deal with that? That's the thing. And the one thing I want to know, and we'll never know the answer, is Jey Uso tired of teaming with his brother? Is this a case where Jey Uso just told WWE, listen, I want to wrestle singles. I don't want to tag with my brother anymore. I don't want my legacy to be I know that sounds ridiculous and it sounds kind of cold, but I don't know. It makes you wonder. And listen, don't give me this WWE Unreal bullshit, because even the unreal is unreal. It's cameras are laying around and they're recording stuff. That WWE Unreal was the biggest bullshit because everything was too perfect. Too perfect. You want to prove to me that Unreal is really real to that extent? Then make retro Unreal. Just go back 10 years. You got footage. You got footage of even people taking a shit. Just take that footage and show us all. Show us WWE Unreal 1995, 1990. Just show it. Just play it through. All the controversy of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Just pay me what I want. Just match it and I'll stay. Just show that. You know why they can't show it? Because they can't re-record things to make it seem better. When you do something with Unreal, this outcome isn't exactly what we wanted. So we need to record this. Jay, splash some water on your face. Make it look like you were a wrestler. They've done that many times. How many times a wrestler has a match? Didn't they even do that with Steve Austin? When Rikishi ran him over, didn't they do something where Steve Austin was out in the ring? And then afterwards, they showed him in the back, but it was recorded earlier in the day. You have a lot of segments that happen in the back that are recorded earlier in the day, but they splice it together to make it seem like, okay, he just left the ring. Now, you could get away with that with wrestlers without face paint. Remember Sting in WCW? Wasn't it with the dogs? If you remember, I think it was Sting with the dogs. One of my favorite clips of all time, when the Rottweiler started biting Sting in the back, and Sting had a towel wrapped around his arm because he was too much of a pussy to take the dog bite from a Rottweiler. I'm joking, obviously. If you go back and you watch that, they tried to make it seem like I think Sting just had a match and he went to the back and got attacked by dogs. You look at him in the ring and you see the face paint, and then you look at him in the back like, wait, how did you get half your face paint back? Because they didn't realize, fuck, how are we going to sync this together? We can't predict how much face paint he's going to lose. I think they did something like that. It's funny when you do that, especially when someone wears a T-shirt in a match. They finish the match and the shirt is covered in sweat. And then later on, they take the pre-recorded segment early and then they realize, fuck, his shirt doesn't have any sweat on it. Somehow, from walking from the ringside area to the back, all the sweat evaporated. They would fuck that up all the time. And we would pick up on it like, dopes. See, they don't think about stuff like that. If I'm doing a segment like, we're going to record this now, we're going to show it after the show, we're going to make it seem like it happened right after, you might even see that with CM Punk. Now, CM Punk, I don't think wears a shirt. And he really does he? I think he does wear a shirt once. No, he takes it off. That's right. I always remember he's got weird looking nipples. But see, Jey Uso lately has been wearing shirts sometimes. You got to be really careful with the person that's in the ring. Because if they're wearing a shirt and then you're going to do a pre-tape segment that we think happens right after, and then there's, you don't factor in the sweat. The best was Sting with the dogs. That was the best part of it all. And they were trying to get the dog to bite Sting. I could only imagine how many takes they had to do. They literally wrapped the towel around Sting's forearm, and he's standing there like this, and you could see the Rottweiler fucking biting him in the arm, biting him in the towel. And it was like, you know how many takes they probably had to do to get it? Plus, how do you get a dog to bite his arm? Take one, attack. And the dog's just like looking at him and takes a pee on the floor. Cut. Take two. Attack. And the dog's just looking up like, this is a bad storyline. I don't want to be part of it. Bischoff, give me a bone. Cut. Take three. What did they do? Sting, you know what you got to do. No, I can't. Sting, you know what you got to do. This was the towel. Hey, Pooch, come here. Then he wraps it around. The dog was not. You want to know a great example? The dog pound match. What was that? Was that Big Boss Man and Al Snow? Was that who was in it? When they had the dogs around the ringside area, and the dogs were supposed to be barking and screaming like all in heat that they want to attack like the Big Boss Man and stuff. And they're looking around, and this one's sniffing each other's balls. This one is peeing on the floor. And the dogs were like the most lovable things around. The Kennel from Hell. If you've never seen The Kennel from Hell, it's priceless, man. It's priceless. You do not do angles with dogs. Unless Jericho. I think Jericho, Stephanie, and Triple H's dog was the best one of them all. The best one of them all. Because we didn't see what happened. But all we know is that Chris Jericho tied Triple H's dog leash, the bulldog, to the side of the car. And then somebody backed up and you hear, it sounded like dog fucking got run over. But we didn't see what happened, obviously. No dogs were hurt in the filming of that horrible segment. And do you know this coming week's history show is the anniversary of Baron Corbin, King Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, and Robert Roode bringing out the big dog. This was right before that dog food bullshit that Roman had with Corbin. Corbin brought out, I'm not kidding, it'll be on this coming episode. He brings out a guy dressed in a dog outfit with a Roman Reigns shirt. And you hear Roman Reigns' music. Everybody thinks Roman Reigns is coming out. But instead, a guy coming out dressed in a dog mascot outfit instead. And WWE and Vince McMahon actually spliced in dog sounds to Roman Reigns' music. If you forgot about this, you need to look it up. Because literally yesterday, I'm putting clips together and I hear, arf, 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 roar. I'm like, what am I listening to? Trust me. We forget how horrible that shit was. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, we're finishing up the year with the history show with a lot of fun, man. Seriously. All right. We have a super shout out. We're going to start wrapping this up. Somebody asked about Rich Holland. That's a great one. Definitely want to bring it up. Scorpio 1117. He feels like there's something strange going on in WWE. Reason why he says that is because a lot of WWE's top stars are teasing retirement within months. I think, well, not a lot of people are teasing retirement, but you could see that WWE obviously is, I'm not saying do things on the cheap, but you see what is happening under TKO. And everyone is more of an asset than the wrestling aspect of it. Everybody is replaceable. And especially when you're talking about Nick Khan and Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro, these are not, Nick Khan might be the closest to a wrestling person, but they're business first. And I think for some of these wrestlers, it's like, you know what? I've made my money. I've gotten the opportunities, and I think it's time for me to start pulling back a little bit. I don't think you'll see that many people retire. I still think Randy Orton will be around a few years. Drew will be around for a few years. I mean, AJ Styles, believe it or not, let me tell you all something in case you didn't notice. AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura were teasing retirement around this time for years. There is an interview that Shinsuke Nakamura did about 5 years ago and said, I'm going to retire by the time I turn 40 or 42. He was comparing it to Ichiro. And he says, I don't want to, get to the point where I'm embarrassing myself out there. So Shinsuke retiring around this age, give or take a year or two, was expected. AJ Styles, I think, as well. AJ Styles has sort of, talked about this the last 2 years also. And I think once they decided to make that decision, it's a decision you make with your family. So I don't think you're going to see this exodus. Let me put it that way. You're not going to see an exodus of people. You will see an exodus of people being cut because they're not bringing much to the table. That's why you'll see some names get cut sometimes you don't expect. But I don't think you're going to see this big exodus. I mean, people are making money. They're having to work less shows. They're touring a little bit more overseas, and they're being very, very careful with wrestlers. If you're looking closely, CM Punk doesn't wrestle as much as you'd think. Now he'll have to turn it up a little bit because he's champion. Cody Rhodes doesn't wrestle as much as he was before. Roman Reigns certainly isn't. You look at a lot of the older wrestlers. Randy Orton, look how careful they're treating Randy. Some wrestlers, they have really pulled back a lot, and I think that's why people are complaining so much, because you don't see a lot of wrestlers. But what they do now is these super shows. I think brand split for house shows is pretty much history. You do super shows because you only need half for the roster you did before. You only need half for Raw, half for SmackDown. Instead of doing SmackDown only house show or Raw only house show. So, and you throw an NXT match in here, once in a while, they definitely can downsize a little bit. So I don't want to predict who gets released next because I'm not trying to be politically correct here, but I don't like doing that. But we have taken notice of people's contracts that are coming up. We brought up Gargano and Candice LeRae early in the year. We brought up a few others. There's a few people's contracts that are coming up. So you could see that quite a few people are expendable. This is not, the Vince McMahon WWE anymore. They would rather cut someone now, let them get to the next level somewhere else, and then we'll bring them back down the line. So, and speaking of Rocky Red, what's my take on the Ridge Holland fiasco? My thoughts on West Side Gun being done with WWE, and if I ever rode in a dollar van in New York. Never rode in a dollar van in New York, but I have driven one. One time for an XPW show in Philly, I ended up having to rent a caravan, and I drove like 10 people to Philly, which was pretty interesting. I can't remember her name right now. Valentina. Anybody remember Valentina? Who did she go? What was her name in TNA? But Valentina, there's a funny story, and this is true. If someone pull up her name, and then I'll tell you the story, because if I say it now, people won't know what I'm talking about. But as far as West Side Gun, I did see that big post that he made online that TKO sent him a cease and desist for stop using WWE references and music and stuff like that. I'll say it like this. Number one, he used a WWE copyrighted photo of $1 Million Man and Virgil. There's plenty of photographer, Pro Wrestling Illustrated photos that you could use. He's using content without their permission. And I don't think, and I'm not defending TKO. Trust me, we just criticized them a shitload last couple of months. But, there's an old saying, if I do this for you, I got to do it for him. If I allow you to do it, then I got to allow this person. And, unfortunately, in this type of business, you have to know where to draw the line. And I think in the case of TKO, they turned around and said, listen, it's nothing personal, but you can't do this. And they're not going to say to him, if we let you do it, then we got to let this person do it. We got to let this person do it. And if this person doesn't, we send a cease and desist, but you let West Side Gun do it. So it's business. It's business. He's a lifelong WWE fan. He spent a lot of money on WWE. But, this is business. It's business. I think he was hurt as a wrestling fan, but he should be smart enough to understand that, you have to be very careful about your copyrighted, trademarked, material. And just because, he is who he is and is supporter doesn't mean that he can do things that others can't. So I don't really have that much sympathy for West Side Gun. I don't think he should take it personal either. I think he should understand that this is strictly a business decision. It's not about loyalty or fandomhood. You don't base business on that. You just don't. This is the business world. This is the corporate world. Can't do that. So nobody pulled up Valentina's name before? All right, I'll just tell everybody a story. Long story short, I drove about 10 people to Philly for an XPW show and had to drive them back also. And I was so fucking tired and I had to make like 8 or 9 stops to get home. And she used to live about 10 minutes away from where I used to live in Middle Village. I'm not going to say the town she lived in because then somebody could look up her real name and check the town. But I went to drive her home and I went up this side street and no joke, literally it's like 2 lanes of parked cars, one on each side and only 1 lane of traffic. And there was a car double parked. And I drove up to her house and I sideswiped a parked car like right in front of her house. It's like, oh my God. And I'm like, just take your luggage and go. And I literally, as soon as she got out of the car, I just sped away and gave the car rental back just like that. So just totally fucked up the van driving her home. So yes, Lizzie Valentine. Thank you, Mike Gonzalez. Lizzie Valentine. As far as the Rich Holland thing, it's not a fiasco. It's not a fiasco. People are, they moved on from Andrade. Let's put it that way. People feel bad for Rich Holland. I feel bad for him as well. He feels like he's been just let out, to pasture after getting injured. I think Rich Holland made a few mistakes. Rich Holland was going to be released. And listen, I defended Rich Holland since the Big E injury. Other people were wishing death on this guy, and I always defended him and always felt bad for him. But if you're going to be honest, and if you're not going to clickbait it and just try to spark up people's emotions, I saw the thumbnails on social media. I'm fucked. You're just trying to make money off that. Take your ad revenue and send it to him in a donation if you care about him that much. My take on Rich Holland is this. You're dealing with TKO. You're dealing with a company that is all business and it's not personal anymore. If you go on social media and complain and start, indirectly trashing WWE, TKO for releasing you from your contract while you're injured, don't be surprised when WWE or TKO says, listen, you had a month left on your deal. We think you breached it by talking about personal business. Yeah, guys, okay. You know who gave us the info? When TKO first took over, Kevin and I were told directly from 2 people at work, well, they both don't work for WWE anymore, but they had a big meeting at the time. And what was the most important thing in that meeting? You do not leak out our business. Some journalists got screwed over that. Rumors, this person showing up at Raw, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about business side. They had that big meeting with the wrestlers and said, we do not leak our business. Ari Emanuel, Mark Shapiro, we do not leak out our business. So we've talked about that for 1.5 years, 2 years now. When Rich Holland leaked out the business, TKO turned around and said, nah, you know what? You breached it. We're going to terminate it now a month early. So he ended up losing about 20, 30 grand because of it. That's what happened. I feel bad for Rich Holland, but Booker T has probably been the most vocal over the years since the Jordan Miles fiasco. Booker T says, handle business behind the scenes. Stop putting your business on social media. Rich Holland obviously was upset, wanted to let it out and vent, but you got a month left on your deal still. Get paid when you're released completely, then you open up. He ran, he complained, TKO said, oh yeah, Yeah, we're going to cut you a month early. It's his own fault. Whether you like it or not, it's his own fault. And as far as the GoFundMe, I think his ex-wife, I don't know if he's divorced. Somebody told me he was, but his ex-wife or the mother of his kids is the one that set up the GoFundMe. And then I heard that Ridge Holland wrote, I didn't ask for a GoFundMe. Any money that's sent will be donated to charity. Message for Ridge Holland. Don't you dare take people's money who are trying to help you and give it to a charity. If I'm anybody on that GoFundMe, because I heard Tony Khan made a generous donation, Jericho made a generous donation, some WWE wrestlers under Anonymous donated there. They weren't donating it so you could give it to the Ronald McDonald House. They donated to help you and your family. So either you have too much of a pride that you don't want to take the money, you feel embarrassed for it, which you shouldn't, take the help, or there's something else going on. And I don't think anything else is going on. And for any of you out there that's going to say, DT, what do you mean something else is going on? I don't remember the women's wrestler that did this. One day we'll remember. I got to get off my lazy ass and do research. But about 7-8 years ago, there was a hurricane somewhere in the Midwest. Some people's houses were destroyed because of it. And I don't remember the name of the women's wrestler. Pretty popular at the time. Wasn't a WWE or a TNA girl, but she set up a GoFundMe. And she said that she couldn't get any assistance, couldn't get any help, this and that. And I had actually helped a few people in wrestling and a few of our supporters at the time to fill out forms to get aid from FEMA. So when she set up this GoFundMe and said, I can't get assistance, I can't get this, I don't have this, I don't have that, I actually emailed her, or I sent her a DM on Twitter and said, listen, I said, you can get assistance. FEMA does this. If you need help filling out forms, I'll be more than happy to help, but this is what you do. And she ignored it. And I sent it again, and I said, listen, I said, you can get this assistance. And she ignored it the second time, and then a light bulb went off in my head. Oh, I get it. You don't want the government's assistance because you think you could make more money on GoFundMe. That is true. And this person who claimed that the state, I think it was New Orleans, it wasn't Katrina, they think it was New Orleans, screwed her over and won't help her and she's homeless and this and that. And I'm like, you could get assistance right now. You don't want the assistance. And unfortunately, that's what people do. You can't double dip. You go to jail for that. You can't set up a GoFundMe, get paid $50,000 and then put in an insurance claim. Trust me, you get arrested for that. And IRS will find out. So when you have all these people making donations and Ridge Holland says, hey, anybody that donated, I didn't ask for this. If any money that comes in, I'm going to donate it to charity. No, you don't. No, you don't. Nobody did that for charity. They did it to help you. So he's got to, if it's just pride, he's got to suck it up and be happy that people want to help you. If he's embarrassed, this is not the time to be embarrassed, Ridge. He'll never see this, probably won't see it. Maybe somebody will forward this to him, but he has no right to have people who are trying to help him and his kids turn around and say, anybody that donated, I'm going to give it to charity. No. No. All right, we're going to wrap this up. T. Smitty, thank you very much, my friend. Do I think WWE should have more NXT women do spot duty on the main roster to freshen things up and see who the fans may like? No. I mean, I remember what they did with Toxic Attraction, and you realize very quickly that the main roster really didn't know how to utilize them properly. WWE has notoriously done a shit job bringing people up early. You do a little teaser here and there, a little feeler. For people that don't remember, Roxanne Perez made a debut on SmackDown, I think like 6-9 months, maybe even a year before she actually debuted, became a regular on the main roster. Braun had a quick appearance. Trick Williams had a quick appearance. If you want to do a dark match, fine. You want to do a main event, fine. But as far as just putting them on SmackDown temporarily or Raw temporarily, I don't think it's a good idea. If you want to put them in front of a larger audience, or if you want them to face, look what happened with Josh Briggs. Wait, was it Josh Briggs? Who fought Grande Americano last week? I think it was Josh Briggs, right? I mean, I thought, and somebody brought it up on Patreon, I thought that this was kind of a challenge, like, okay, look, let's put this person against Ludwig Kaiser, who is fucking a machine in the ring, and let's see how this person could handle it. And that match sucked. It sucked. And, sometimes you just don't mesh with your opponent. But, not too long ago, AJ Styles wanted to do something with Grayson Waller in NXT. You bring somebody from the main roster to NXT to see how they hang with them. Becky Lynch did tremendous job for Tiffany Stratton and a few others. I think you should do the opposite. Bring some people on occasion to NXT from the main roster and see how the NXT talents handle it. Because if they can't handle it, it's on a much smaller scale. Just imagine if Josh Briggs would have fought El Grande Americano on Raw, and you got the match what you got last week. You might as well just stick a fork in Josh Briggs' chunky ass. He'd be done. So I personally think, don't like the idea. Don't like the idea, especially if someone is not ready yet. You want to give them a little taste, fine. Like they kind of did that with Lash Legend. Remember, she teamed up with Jakar Jackson and they went to Saudi Arabia, right? It was that 3 tag team match for the women's tag titles. I think Bianca and Jade won that match. But they were advertised as NXT. And, it was just really more like one-shot deal. They were sitting in the crowd a few shows, but not much. Now, Lash Legend is finally on the main roster because she's ready. All right. We're going to wrap this up in 2 or 3 minutes. Michael Gonzalez wants to know my thoughts on the New York City election. As expected, Zora Bandami won. I personally think not a lot is going to get done over the next 4 years. I already heard that New York City already said no free buses. You realize that if you're charismatic and you promise a lot of free stuff, you get your ass elected. That's really what it comes down to. I don't think a lot is going to get done. I'm going to be honest and say I want to see him succeed. I'm not one. See, like you see with Trump, I'm not saying to support of him or against him. But you see what's going on with Trump right now? You have a lot of politicians that rather see the country go to shit as long as Trump gets hurt because of it. And to me, that's fucking awful. To turn around because you dislike Trump that much, you want to see the country fail because that's the best way to hurt Trump. That's ridiculous. So for me, I could turn around. That's like me saying I want Zoran Mandami to fail. So I want this state to get, in disarray, a lot of crime, because that'll, get him out as quickly as possible. Yeah, that hurts our state also. I'm not one of those. If he could succeed and make New York State better, great. I don't think he's going to push through a lot of the things he thinks he wants to do. Plus, he's 33. So, he has no history. There's going to be a lot of people in his ear. There's going to be a lot of influencers. And, we'll see what happens. Me personally, I am going to stay away from politics as much as I can. I didn't watch any of the election results. I didn't watch any of the speeches. I have no interest in it. This is what New York voted for. I just hope that our state doesn't get worse. That's all I hope for. I don't ever. Listen, even when, if you want to compare it to the shows or even the wrestling hotlines back in the day, like Kevin and I always, let me put it this way. Kevin and I always wanted to be number one because we earned it. Like, we don't want you to tune into us. Like the phrase I used to say is, we want to be good. We want you to tune into us, not because others are bad, but because we're good. And I still mean that wholeheartedly. I don't want you to support me over another show because they suck. I want you to support me because I'm good. Because you like what I say, you like the authenticity, that you think I'm pertinent in what I talk about. I never, ever, ever want somebody to support me simply because everything else sucks. You know, there's a big difference there. It's like, hey, you know, I got laid because I was the only guy available. You know what I mean? Like, no, I want to feel like I got laid because, you know, hey, maybe this person kind of like was attracted to me, or maybe I'm good at what I do. I'm married, so I'm just using hypothetical. But, you know, you always want to feel that you were chosen. That's why even with this, you know, this what they were doing with the, what the fuck is it called? What were they calling it, where they were hiring people simply because they were women or black or gay? DEA, what was it? Not DEA. DEA is a fucking government organization. What is it? DEI. DEI. You know, like, I never liked DEI because I always felt that, you know, someone that gets a job, I want to be like, all right, let's move away from DEI. I like this. The Iconics. This is a bad example, but it's the only one I can think of right now. The Iconics. Remember? Now they're the inspiration in TNA. Early on, Kevin, I always felt the Iconics were hired because they were Australian. They were, you know, because WWE was trying to find different wrestlers from different countries so that everybody was represented. And, you know, like I would say at the time, I said, you know, do you really think Cassie looks in the mirror and says, I'm on the WWE roster because I'm good? You know, iconic! Or am I on the roster simply because I fit a quota? Am I on this roster simply because they needed to fill this country or this spot? It's unfair, and it was ignorant at the time. I don't feel that way now. But I never want someone to turn around and get a job, and then you look in the mirror and you say, did I get this job because I earned it and because I'm the best person at that position? Or did I get it based on my skin color or my sexuality or my gender? You know, and, you know, some people, they're like, I don't give a fuck. I'm getting paid, man. Kind of feel like, you know, Miranda Leeds, you know, and Tegan Knox. You know, maybe they should have felt like that, like, gives a fuck 3 minutes. Gives a fuck. I'm getting paid, man. Go to fucking out to dinner after and say, oh my God, look, honey, we made fucking $2,000. We only had to work 3 minutes. My God, you figured out in an hour, that's like $70,000 an hour. Give me 3 minutes every time. You know, I'll work 2 months and it's not even equivalent to an Iron Woman match. You know, for some people, they don't care. Some people, it's just about getting paid. I just always felt that the best person should get the position simply because they've earned it. That's why I never, and you know something, Triple H takes that opinion, takes that stance about who gets pushed. And it's unpopular for a lot of people. Remember recently when he was doing media scrum still, and somebody asked him about no black wrestlers on the card? And he says, I don't look at someone getting an opportunity based on skin color. I give it because you don't, and that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And he's basically saying, look, you know, people are on this card because they earned it and they're at the spot, not because they're this or woman or black or this. Even with women, Triple H was one of the ones that did not want Evolution 2. Did not want the second women's Evolution. He felt that, you know, we don't need to have an all-women's pay-per-view to give people opportunity. But he ended up caving in because he realized how important it meant to the women and for a lot of fans. And that was the right decision. But, you know, you don't want to feel like someone is getting an opportunity simply because they're a woman simply because they're this, simply because they're that. You want that person to get an opportunity because they're the right person for the right job. So, all right. I am going to jet. We're at 2.5 hours. So I want to thank you all for a wonderful Sunday night. And tomorrow night, right after Raw, I will be live immediately after Raw, literally before those credits. As soon as you see Lee Fitting and Paul Levesque on the bottom of the screen, go to dtkcdiscord.com, and I will be live on our Discord channel for your next show. We'll recap Raw. We'll get in some wrestling news, maybe follow up on a little bit from tonight, and then we're back to the same routine. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'm definitely going to reach out to our great channel members, our patrons, and then everyone as well, just to start getting a feel as far as what you want added in 2026, because the history show will be done at the end of the year, and that's going to open up quite a bit of time that we could spend. Definitely want to add another show or two online. Definitely want to dramatically increase our presence on YouTube. Definitely think it's about time we kind of put some people in check, not necessarily calling them out, but, putting truth bombs out there instead of just, playing on other people's emotions. Because I think that's a formula that slowly people are starting to get back to. I think people are getting tired of just having people put shit out there just simply for the sake of putting it out there. So we'll talk, we'll get an idea and we'll go from there. But I do want to let everybody know I finally updated our great channel member list and our patrons here. So starting next week, we're going to put the credits at the beginning of the show and at the end of the show for everyone who takes that little extra step to support what I do, help keep the bills paid a little bit, keeps the lights on, and grow into 2026. So I want to thank you all, as always, for the support, and definitely catch you all in the next one. So be well. I'll talk to you all again soon.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.